Okay, let's just dive right in. For centuries, we've been told there's this epic battle raging inside all of us, right? It's the cold, hard logic of our head versus the messy, chaotic pull of our heart. But what if that's completely the wrong way to look at it? What if to be a truly good person, your head and your heart need to stop fighting and actually start working together?
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You know you should go to the gym, or you know you ought to apologize or visit that sick friend. You have all the right reasons lined up perfectly, but you just don't feel like it. Well, that gap, that space between knowing and doing, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. For most of Western history, there was a really clear winner in the battle for who should be in charge of our morals, and its name was reason.
Yeah, philosophers basically set up two opposing teams. On one side, you've got Team Reason. It was seen as the star player, supreme, objective, the very thing that makes us truly human. And on the other side, you got Team Emotion. It was viewed as, something kind of animalistic, a messy problem that needed to be controlled or tamed or just shut down. The source material even calls it an unfortunate appendix. Ouch. This idea goes all the way back to thinkers like Socrates. And what he's saying here is actually pretty radical. It's that to know the good thing to do is the same as doing the good thing. The big assumption was that if your brain is smart enough to figure out the right path, you'll just automatically walk it, no questions asked. And look, this wasn't some one-off idea from ancient Greece. It was carried forward for centuries by some of the biggest names in philosophy, like Plato and way later Immanuel Kant. They all pretty much argued the same thing. Our feelings, our desires, our natural inclinations, they were just obstacles on the road, getting in the way of the pure, perfect path laid out by our reason.
Okay, but here's where the story takes a sharp turn. What actually happens when you try to live like this? What's the real-world cost of treating your emotions like an enemy you have to crush? Well, it turns out the psychological price is incredibly, dangerously high. And what you're seeing here is this really devastating chain reaction, and it often starts when we're kids. When harsh rules are forced on a child without any understanding, they don't learn how to manage their feelings. They just learn to bury them. And all that internalized fear and shame starts to build a twisted, negative conscience. And those feelings, they don't just go away, they fester. And wow, look at these outcomes. We're not talking about just feeling a bit off. The source material links this severe emotional repression to a whole host of serious problems, from extreme anxiety and OCD to psychosomatic illnesses, where your mind literally makes your body sick. And in the most extreme cases, it can even lead to what's described as an affectionless character, a psychopath who feels absolutely no guilt at all. So, if suppressing our emotions is a total disaster, what's the alternative? This is where our story shifts again. We have to stop seeing reason and emotion as enemies in a war and start seeing them as what they really are, indispensable partners. This is the new model. They aren't two separate things fighting for control of your brain. They are fundamentally inseparable. They're just two sides of the same coin of what it means to be a moral person. You actually cannot have one without the other. This quote just nails it perfectly. Think about it for a second. Reason, all by itself, can figure out the most logical, perfect path, but it gives you zero motivation to actually get up and walk it. It's blame. On the flip side, emotion gives you a ton of motivation, powerful fuel. But without reason to guide it, it's just stumbling around in the dark. It's blind. So the big idea here, the really crucial point, is that the goal isn't to suppress our emotions, but to educate them. And what that means is we have to consciously, deliberately help our feelings develop and mature so they can become this powerful ally to our reason, actually pushing us toward the moral choices we want to make. I just love this analogy from the source material. Reason is the guide. It's holding the map. It shows you the way to go. But emotion? Emotion is the goad. It's the prod, the push, the engine that actually gets you moving down that path. You need both, right? You need the map and the engine to get anywhere that matters. All right, so let's take this idea of a partnership and use it to build a whole new way of understanding those moments we talked about right at the start. When we know what's right, but we just fail to do it. The technical term for this is moral weakness. But, and this is so important, the source suggests we stop thinking of it as a failure of willpower, like our will just wasn't strong enough. It's much better to think of it as a conflict between two different kinds of reasons. And here they are, side by side.
On the one hand, you have your justificatory reasons. These are the logical, rational arguments for why something is the right move. I ought to visit my friend. Makes perfect sense. But on the other hand, you have your motivational reasons. And these are all about your emotions, how you actually feel about doing the thing. And as you can see, sometimes you feel like it, and sometimes you really, really don't.
And that's it. That's the aha moment. Moral weakness isn't a battle between reason and emotion. It's just a misalignment. Your logical brain, your justifying reasons are saying go, but your emotional self, your motivating reasons are saying, nah, I'd rather stay home. The action stalls because the guide is pointing one way, but the goad, the engine, is pushing in the complete opposite direction. Which brings us to this final really powerful question. It's not about winning a war inside ourselves anymore. It's about training. It's about education. How can we consciously practice and develop our feelings, our empathy, our courage, our kindness, so that the next time our reason shows us the right path, our heart is excited and ready and roaring to go? That's the real work.